Welcome to The Power of Potential, a podcast hosted and produced by St. Rose High School in Belmar, New Jersey. The show is dedicated to helping parents navigate the world of private education while showcasing the potential of its students, teachers, and alumni. St. Rose High School has been empowering potential since 1923.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Power of Potential podcast. I'm Mariana Simon.
And I'm Samantha Golding.
And today we have our wonderful guidance counselors on.
And happy National Counselor Week.
Yes, this probably won't come out till after that, but right now it's National Counselors Week, so that's what we're going with. So why don't you go and introduce yourselves one by one and kind of say what you do.
My name is Miss Durham. This is my third professional year here at St. Rose.
So I'm Miss White. This is my fifth school year at St. Rose High School. But before that, as Ms. Durham just was saying, we had our internships. So it was just like our first go ahead. One of the counselors here. I also do all the testing as well here. And Ms. Durham and I run the Make-A-Wish Club as well.
I'm Mrs. Fallon. I don't dare say what year this is of mine, but I started in September 2007. And prior to that, I was a hospital social worker and a social worker for the Division of Youth and Family Services in New Jersey. And I'm technically the lead counselor. I think it's just because I've been here the longest. But
it's a little addition to your. It's a little addition.
It's a little thing I can put. It makes it look more important. It's really not, but yeah.
Well, I mean, Miss Fallon, you're my guidance counselor,
and Miss White's mine. So, and I've had her for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I'm a sophomore, so I've had Miss Fallon for 2 years. So I kind of brought up to Mr. and Miss White over the summer of having you guys on the podcast. It's taken a very long time, but at that time I was like, why don't we talk about the college admissions process? So let's start there. So how do you guys facilitate the college admissions process, and what do you do to help with that?
So college planning at St. Rose actually starts with freshman year when the students are brought in. We meet with the students prior to them actually enrolling in the school, and we determine their course of study that they're going to take. The classes that you take as a freshman really do impact every other year that you're here. If you do well, then you can move up to the next level as a sophomore, and same with the junior. When you think about it, the freshman year grades that you receive are actually 1/3 of the GPA that your colleges will see. So we like to say, get the ball running right as soon as you start in. Beyond that, then obviously the college planning, we do a little more about it with Naviance, introducing the students to Naviance in freshman year, but then a little more in depth in sophomore and junior year. Talk about junior parent night.
Yes, I was just going to say our next big step comes in junior year, where we just hosted recently our junior parent night. We've done it virtual the past 2 years, and it really encompasses the whole planning period. We go over the testing, so like SATs and things like that, and just what Naviance is to the parents, because you might have had the lessons in your English class per se, but your parents have never had it. So kind of give them an insight to what Naviance is and kind of what they're getting as a counselor.
Right. And then from there, we get everyone's availability, from the parents, and we work with their schedules so that parents can come in, and we have a whole conference with them and their children, and really have about a 45-minute to an hour long conference with them, talking specifically about the track of college and career and all that stuff.
Well, you mentioned something about the SATs and going over that testing and stuff, and recently in the news it's announced the SATs are going to be all digital. So how is that going to look, just out of curiosity?
That won't be for another 2 years. So we are looking at that it'll be like a bring your own device kind of thing. So where you can bring your own device and take it there. It'd be kind of similar to what they did for the APs in the spring of 2020 when everything was locked down. It was a very secured way. I will say for the most part, as a test run the first time for that, it did go very smoothly. There was only a few little hiccups, and I think with time, they will be able to perfect it and be able to have it a little bit more secure.
And I think it will help with the SAT is that it's still going to be in the school building. It's still going to be a Saturday morning for 3 And actually, they've lessened the time of it as well. So it's down to, I think they said almost like a 2-hour test instead of it's now a 4-hour test. So that will help with the administration of it.
I mean, I took the SAT in the fall just as a baseline sort of thing, and it's long. Like, it's hard to focus for that many hours, like 4 hours sitting there.
Well, I
mean,
actually had to take the SAT twice, and yes, it's long. I didn't take it just for fun.
Yeah.
But that's also what we do here at St. Rose. You start taking your PSATs in your freshman year. So you kind of get used to the format of the SATs and what that's like starting in your freshman year. And those scores will also determine, kind of what we were just talking about before, what classes you can take in your junior and senior year, looking at that AP potential that you get from those PSAT scores. So what is nice about St. Rose is that you do get almost 3 years of a practice SAT before you have to sit for it, or if you decide to sit for it early. But really, for the majority of the students, you're taking 3 practice tests before you actually sit for it.
Yeah, I felt like even though I had taken it twice, like I took it and then I took the SAT the week after I took the PSAT here, and even the second time around, like taking the PSAT, I felt way more prepared for the SAT, and like, dare I say, the SAT was easier than the PSAT. I don't know, did you think the same way, Sammy?
No.
Okay, then I just thought that way. I don't know. That was easier.
I don't like standardized testing regardless. I wouldn't take the SAT for fun, but that's just me, and you're just you.
Okay. This is why we're good together. We balance.
We're balanced.
But that is also just kind of piggybacking off of what Sammy just said, how standardized testing isn't for everyone. And that's kind of every year, college admissions process is changing, and especially with the pandemic, a lot of these schools have gone test optional, and it really helps those who are not great with standardized testing. So it's a great option for colleges to look at students in a more holistic view.
It is still a requirement that you take an SAT or an ACT at St. Rose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not physically at St. Rose, but while you're here.
We just pick on each other. So a little bit more back on you guys. What made you each individually choose to go into the field of being a guidance counselor?
So I can actually tell you the exact point where I always knew that I wanted to work with students. My senior year of high school, I had a lot of high school credits. I was almost maxed out, and I only did a half day. One of my classes that year was to work in the guidance department as their office help. So I found my passion there, and I kind of worked in the department and saw what they did. I knew I wanted to work, like I said, with students. I just knew teaching wasn't my thing. I wasn't going to be a good teacher, but I knew I wanted to help, and I thought child psychology, and then I went towards the school counseling. And then also, while I was in my undergrad program, I have younger siblings, and my one sibling has a learning disability, and her counselor told her she would never be anything in life. And I never wanted another student to go through that as well, and to feel that kind of defeat before they even made it out there. So that really made me want to be a counselor and never have another person go through that feeling.
So you're lucky you have her. She's never told you you're never.
She would never.
You might have been in trouble.
For me, it was a little bit different. It took me a little bit more time to realize that this was truly what I wanted to do. Coming out of high school, I was very much in a film program, just like this. I had a whole studio and everything. And if you were a student coming out of that program, everyone had dreams that they would make it big in the business. And my mom said, no, you're going to Ocean County College for 2 years. You're going to save your money. And I said, but Mom, she goes, but Meg, no, you're not going. So I started my first semester at OCC, and I took my first psychology class. And I fell in love. And within one semester, I changed my track. And I landed here because I thought back, and I absolutely had the best guidance counselor growing up. And she truly inspired me, and my older siblings had her as well, so she very much knew my family, and I loved that kind of aspect, really getting to know not only the students, but their families as well. So, yeah, that's how I landed here.
You're an alumni?
Yeah. Huh?
You're an alumni?
No.
Well, my career path was much longer than either of theirs. So I was a social worker in the various different social work jobs. And when I decided I wanted to go back for my master's, and I knew I wanted to work in a school. But most school social workers are just members of the child study team. They're doing child study team evaluations, and I knew that was not what I wanted to do. So the idea of initially I was going to go and become a substance awareness coordinator, but then I got into the whole school counseling guidance thing instead while I was going for my master's. And that's how I ended up here.
So you guys, both of you, mentioned that in high school it was kind of like on a different. Well, Miss Durham was not on the same path to become a school guidance counselor, and Miss White, you liked it. So how do you guide students now to make the right decisions in their life? So college and then beyond, help them find what they're passionate about.
So I think each student, it's different. Some kids grow up, knowing from kindergarten what they want to be. Like my sister, she always said that she wanted to be an elementary school teacher, and that's just what she's doing. Other kids, it takes time. And that's where we step in, and there's tools on Naviance that we guide our students to take, like a career interest profiler, things that kind of make that light bulb, turn on and be like, you know what, I actually can see myself doing something like that. And it's solely based on interests, where and we take it from there. But we always tell our students it takes time. Case in point with me, I went in completely on a different track than where I landed now, and like my brother as well. He started with one major and switched after 3 years. So, it's not the end all be all your freshman year.
Well, you have a prime example of this right here. Sorry.
Yeah.
She knows she's known since she was
12. I was
12 what she
11,
wants
12.
to study, where she wants to go to school. I, on the other hand, had absolutely no idea till a couple months ago where I was going to go to school, what I wanted to study. So, yeah, you see how a lot of people go through those different tracks, and eventually they find what calls them.
Yeah.
And along, like Ms. Dorn was saying, my daughter changed her major 4 times in college.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
it's truly what I'm going to study, but
and
who knows?
she's fine.
Yeah.
Graduated in 4 years, and she's fine. I went back to school for my master's when I was 30 years old. So it's not,
And it's okay at 15, 16 when you're thinking about college to not know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. That's okay. And it's okay to go in undecided and take a couple classes here and there and figure out kind of what your interest is. Like Ms. Durham said, she took her first psych class and was like, that's what I love. That's what I want to do. It's okay to do that.
And if you are undeclared, undecided, you pick a school that has enough of an offering that you can change your major if you need to. If you're thinking maybe I'd like to do engineering, but maybe I'd also like to do fashion merchandising, maybe you don't go to Stevens, where it's
only
focused on the engineering side. So, and we can help the students with that kind of direction.
Yeah. Well, I'm amazed at like the amount of scholarships our students here receive. It's millions of dollars. How does guidance help with that?
Yeah.
So currently, if you look on our Google Classroom pages, there are scholarships listed of like the local scholarships. So we definitely try to promote that and have our students check our Google Classroom. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've posted 5. And I think most of them are about $1,000. So there's that right there. And that's kind of money left, as you say, money left
Don't leave the money on the table.
Right.
And the other way that we do it is the bulk of that big amount of money that you're seeing in scholarship money is straight up merit money from the colleges based on GPAs and, if relevant, SAT scores. So what we do is throughout their time here at St. Rose, we encourage our students to do well. The better your GPA is at the end, the more money that's going to equate to from a college. So that's how they get is like, because they are getting the individualized attention that they can we can direct students, like be on top of you if you're, hey, you know what, you're slacking off in Spanish 3. She's not, but
I have like 100 right now.
but so we encourage the students to really push themselves so that at the end of the day, the money is there and offered.
I will say is one of the nice things about St. Rose. It is like a smaller school where we do actually really know our students. Coming from, we all went to pretty big high
No,
school.
I went to a very small high
Oh,
school.
well, this term and I came from pretty big high schools where we were a number, where we knew our counselors, and fortunately for us, we got to really know our counselors and really like them, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that's
So-
one of the great things. I mean,
It is.
Yeah.
And so,
about-
like, where we can keep track of you a little bit, kind of going back to Mrs. Fallon's point, we can keep track. Hey, you're not doing so well. What's going on? What can we help you with? Do you need help organizing? Do you need help prioritizing? That's what we're here for. And you kind of get that individualized attention, which then leads to the more merit money because your GPA is a little bit higher.
Mhm.
I think that's like a perfect segue into my next question that I was intrigued about is I've been in Catholic school forever, since I was 5. So what's the difference between kind of being in public school with counselors and being in a small Catholic school? So you just touched on the more like individualized attention, but is there any other perks of that? Of being in a small
I mean,
school?
nothing changes with the responsibilities, between public and Catholic, or private. But really, it's that individualized feeling. It's the perk of being in a smaller school that we do get to see all of our students at least 4 times a year, if not more. Miss White and I believe you did your internship as well. In a public school.
Yeah.
Plus, you had children go through public schools. So, I saw my counselor maybe during scheduling season.
Right.
Once a
Right.
year.
That's what my
Once
kids
a
would
year. But I also enjoyed seeing my counselor as well. So sometimes I would pop in and say hi. Whereas, in public schools, you have ratios, student to faculty ratios of probably 250 caseloads of 250 students, if not more. Where we're able to have smaller caseloads here, which really helps with that individualized feeling.
Right.
It is really nice when you guys are going down the hall. We can say, hi, hi, Mary, whoever. Hi, hi, Sammy. Sammy, how many times do you just pop in my office?
Often.
Just to say.
Just to say hello, or I have a question.
whatever.
It's the location of your office too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
the
its
location.
own separate wing.
No,
That's why.
you pass through it
We're a
like twice
hallway.
a day at least.
We don't have a guidance suite. We're a hallway. So I'm in between all of our periods. I think we're all always standing out in the hallway saying hi.
Yeah.
You're either on watch or you're just saying hi to
Hi.
grab a student for something.
Well,
Yeah.
or both.
Or both.
Yeah.
But it's nice to just say hi or to have a quick question answered, like for scheduling season or for college, or is this the right thing I'm supposed to be doing? Like,
Yeah.
And as I said, we know your name by the end of freshman year. We can, for the most part, put a name to a face at the end of your freshman year. If I didn't work in my guidance office, I don't know if they would have known my name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I say about my children went to the same school that Miss Durham went to. And so I would always say the only reason that their guidance counselor knew who they were is because they knew what I did. So they made a point of knowing who they were.
I can't imagine that. Like, I mean, the amount of times I've come to Miss Fallon and be like, so this happened, I don't know. And not always good.
or I
But-
just need to
or
breathe
just
for
need
a
to-
minute.
yeah. And it's like, I feel like, I mean, I know so many of my friends do that too. Like Shannon, everybody comes and talks and I can't imagine not having that. I mean, I didn't have a guidance counselor in elementary school. I mean, there were 200 kids K through 8. So there was no need, but our principal kind of felt like that. And whereas here we don't have that because Mr. Nero's busy and everything. So having that, it makes a difference, I think.
Yeah, it really does make a difference. So, what other aspects of your position besides the college application process that you personally enjoy?
What do you like?
Well, so in addition to the actual counseling jobs, like Ms. Durham and Ms. White said, they're the moderators of the Make-A-Wish Club, and I'm the moderator of the SAD Club, which sounds very sad, but it's Students Against Destructive Decisions. It's an offshoot of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So it's really a peer leadership kind of thing, and since initially, way back when, I got into whole social work and everything and thought about it being a staff because of history of alcoholism in my family. So it's kind of near and dear to my heart. So that is why I started the SAD Club when I got here. And so I'm passionate about that.
One of the aspects I'm really passionate is about getting to know you, getting to know my students. And that's why I really like this setting, because I really do feel like I get to know my students. In a public school, it's too much.
Right.
So one of my favorite aspects is getting to know each individual student and getting to know your quirks and your likes and your dislikes. I really do enjoy that. And just really getting to know them and having them feel like we're a safe space for them to go.
Like, I remember one time, I think it was like sophomore, might have been junior year, when I came to stop by Miss White's office. It was probably, I think it was actually for course selection, and we were just talking while we were doing it, and we realized we both like really liked the same TV show, and it was just like, then we just like were talking about it, and it was like really cool that like,
Yeah, I know with theater, like Miss Fallon's always very asking questions. Oh, like my friend and I were in the hallway and we're like, "Oh, Castles didn't come out yet." The other
Still
day,
hasn't come out.
no, still no,
Talk to that.
still no. Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow.
Hopefully tomorrow. We're hoping. Fingers crossed.
we'll let you know
let
by
you
the time
know.
this episode's out if the cast list has come out.
Yeah. Well, you know. Yeah.
But I always say too, piggybacking on what Miss White said, is this is the best guidance counselor job for a social worker. I still consider myself, like, it's just what I was for so long, that I consider myself a social worker. So this allows me more opportunity to be a social worker than I would in a public school where I had 250 kids.
Well, I have one little quick fun thing. So I happened to be looking at something, and it said, along with you guys as the guidance counselors, it also said Mr. Joyce was a guidance counselor.
Mr. Joyce is the SAC. He's our substance awareness coordinator.
Okay. Well, he was a previous guest on our podcast,
Yeah,
so
he was. That
we
episode
just-
is yet to come out, but
we
It
just
was
wanted to like. So what is he's the substance awareness?
Whatever you want to call it, substance awareness coordinator, substance abuse counselor,
Counselor, yeah.
he's, as he calls himself, he's the drug guy.
Oh,
So
that's,
I can see that.
that's what he
right now.
refers to himself as, the drug guy.
So how do you guys work with parents? So you kind of mentioned that you do like the junior night and the parents come and you work that out. But when I came to pick out classes before my freshman year, my mom came with me and we sat down and talked. So do we do that obviously we didn't do that last year when we picked sophomore classes, but how do you guys like kind of work in conjunction with parents?
So I think the important part of getting freshmen in is meeting you and your parents in that course selection process, and then we kind of get to lay out what we do at St. Rose as guidance counselors, and then from there it's in your court, and we always reach out to parents, and we always say, if you have any questions, reach out. We have open availability for any conferences, phone calls, things like that. During scheduling, we send home the course verification forms, to make sure that your parents are on board with the courses that you selected. Things like that. We're always available for parents. It's always open communication.
Yeah.
And then kind of to go off of that, also with our junior parents, we have an individualized junior parent meeting. So it's with the student, and Sammy can tell, she did this last year with her, I believe it was mom.
Yeah, it was my mom. We did it online.
Online, because last year was a weird school year. But we involved them in that college application process as well, because it's important to have those lines of communication during the college process. Kind of, when we were talking the other day, you were saying, like, Sammy could have one idea of where she wants to go to college, and your parents could have a totally different idea. You want to make sure that they're kind of on the same page with the whole college application
I'm the
process.
oldest, so my mom hasn't had to do any of this yet. Now, she'll have an idea for when it's his turn in 2 years, but like, I think that meeting also helped her like figure out what she's supposed to do, like what steps she's supposed to take, because I'm the oldest and she didn't essentially know.
And it also probably eased her stress a little bit. To be like, okay, this is like our timeline. So we do involve them in that college process. We have that junior parent night, and then we do the individualized meetings. And then, like as Mr. was saying, we're always communicating with parents back and forth. You guys might not even know when they've sent us an email and we've been talking back and forth.
Please don't tell my child I'm sending this.
We get that a lot.
Yeah. But see, you never know that because we don't say.
Ms. Fallon, can you share with our listeners and with us about the Caring Award and what that is and how past recipients have earned that?
Yeah. So every year, so there's a group of it's called the Monmouth County Guidance Directors Association, and it's all of the heads of guidance. So now, as the lead counselor, I get to go to that.
Exciting.
But they have every year what they call the Monmouth County Caring Award, and each school is able to nominate one student based on what we get to choose. Who we feel embodies the spirit of that award, like who has done the most for their community, who has shown a true like affinity for a cause and done something. So we've had winners in the past. We had a student who was kind of instrumental in running the Avon Pond with his parents, and they did a lot with the Brick Stars hockey program. We've had a student who made sun catchers and sold them and created that and made it into actually a business. And all of the proceeds then went to like Clean Ocean Action and things like that. She was a very environmentally conscious. 2 years ago, we had the winner who had started the whole Beach Buddies program. Unfortunately, he didn't get to go to the Caring Award ceremony because it was scheduled for the week after everything shut down. So they canceled that, so he didn't get to go. Who won last year?
She did.
Oh yeah, and last year, so it was great because it was a girl who, tying into the whole pandemic and the problem, she, as a rising senior, created a whole program with teachers in the school to kind of give them a break of to give them time off so that everybody's online all the time. You're constantly in front of your computer. If they had small children, she ran a story hour. Virtually story
so
hour
cute.
with about 4 or 5 of our teachers who had little kids. And this year's winner is also a member of the senior class. It hasn't actually been announced yet, but
Do you want to announce it on the podcast?
I mean, it won't come out for a while.
It won't come out for a while. So this year's winner is Bridget Smith. And Bridget has been extremely involved in the Alex's Lemonade Stand, to the point of raising probably well over $100,000 for donations to Alex's Lemonade Stand.
And so, congratulations, Bridget.
Yes, Bridget. We're the first to know, I guess.
I guess, right? Does she know?
She knows.
Okay.
So what she has to do now is she and Mr. Falgaris are going to make a 2-minute video, there's a reception for the guidance directors for all the Caring Award people. It's in March. It's at Brookdale. It's a breakfast. Parents are invited, everything. And they have all of the winners there. And each one gets called up individually. They play their 2-minute video. They get a round of applause. And then they get a check for $150, and they get entered into a drawing at the end of the breakfast for larger scholarships. So in my 15 years, St. Rose has never won one of the larger scholarships. We're hoping for Bridget this year.
Maybe this year. Maybe this year.
So to kind of wrap up this wonderful conversation that we've been having, what's your favorite part of your role as guidance counselors, and what advice would you give to a student who may be interested in becoming a guidance counselor?
I mean, we've told you our show's called The Power of Potential. So how would you empower students if they wanted to become a guidance counselor?
Yeah. Or just really any career, but because you're guidance counselors, we'll ask you this one.
Usually we ask
different guests how our students would become what they are doing. Like we had the brothers on last week, and we asked them a similar question about how to go into a vocation like that. So guidance counselors with you.
Or any career.
I guess for me, my favorite part of my role is that you never know what each day is going to bring. I like jobs where I'm always on my feet. You know, if you have a crisis, a student comes in with a crisis, then that's it. They get your full attention. And what I tell students, if they want to become a guidance counselor or go somewhere in the realms of psychology or counseling, just follow that dream. Because if you have that dream of becoming that person for another student, then you're probably made for that role.
So my favorite part is making an impact on a student's life.
Mhm.
Like I also do love the no 2 days the same, but making an impact on someone's life is something that I knew I always wanted to do. And even if it's a small impact, during this time when you're here the 4 years, we definitely have an impact on your life. My suggestion, if you are thinking to this, is really think about trying to make sure that you are in the right field, to make sure that you're empathetic, because this is definitely a career that does take a little bit out of you, and you do have to make sure that you're okay with that. Like, it's sometimes at the end of the day, you're exhausted and you haven't left your desk because you've been in a crisis all day, but at the end of the day, you're exhausted. So definitely making sure that you're okay with that, and making sure you can give kind of almost all of yourself to this job a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have a good support system at home.
Yeah.
That you've got somebody to go home to and bounce off the day and whatnot, so that it doesn't bring you down. But I was going to say that empathetic, you want to make sure that you have that empathy.
Well, thank you for that. So we've wanted to have this conversation with you for a while now. So
Yes,
thank you to Miss Fallon, Miss White, and Miss Durham so much for making time to come and share the power of potential with our listeners. Congratulations,
to
Bridget.
on being St. Rose recipient of the Monmouth County Guidance Association 2022 Caring Award.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Power of Potential. Please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We're on Apple and Google Podcasts.
Yep, and Spotify. I think.
And Spotify. I'm Samantha Golding
And I'm Mariana Simon.
from St. Rose High School. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Power of Potential podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Subscribe to hear past and future episodes. Learn more about St. Rose by visiting our website at srhsnj.com.